Summer's almost over. You're about to start your first year, freshman year, first year in college or university.
Thank you, Headmaster, for those kind words of welcome.
You're getting oriented, you're meeting your roommate, you filled out that questionnaire about whether or not you're a morning person, a night person, clean or neat, or you're like quiet, or you're like banging music, whatever it is. Congratulations. By the way, if your mother raised you well, we can surely tell.
And how lovely to see all your bright, happy faces smiling up at me.
But after all of that, they're making sure that they're babysitting you and hand-holding you and making sure you have a good customer experience as a first-year student at school. You wonder, how are you actually going to do in classes? What are you going to study? Do you know how to study at the college level? This is not high school with ashtrays. This is something that's a little more serious because you're going to invest time and a whole lot of money in trying to turn this into a meaningful career where you can actually do something, well, that you want to do.
Let us preserve what must be preserved, perfect what can be perfected, and prune practices that ought to be prohibited.
So let's take a look at using my experience as a higher education and teacher and advisor and adjunct to figure out how you can actually succeed as you start college or university life. Hi, I'm James Callahan, and this is The Do-Over Show. And with 30 plus years of experience in higher education as a full-time professor, as an adjunct professor, 8 or 9 colleges, universities, I've seen it all, I've been through it all, I've taken years of study in how students learn and how teachers teach and how most of us don't do a really good job of teaching. And by the way, students don't do a good job of learning either. Go figure. So let's try to figure out how to actually turn that first experience in higher education into something that will create the habits and the practices and the reputation, because your reputation, you know, profs know whether or not you're a good student. They talk. And they can look at your background, your records, your GPA. They know whether, if you come in and you're breezing through with a 2.0 out of 4.0 GPA and you go into a class and all of a sudden you expect to excel because, ooh, this is something I really like, the prof knows you're a C student. Yeah, the prof knows that. And they're rarely going to give you a better degree. That's why it's more important than ever to start off your college education by getting good grades, because it sets the tone and establishes your brand, your reputation in higher education. So let's take a look at the ways you can get started off on the right foot, getting those better grades, making better performance on the tests and paperwork and the exams that you have, and turn your college career into something that you can actually be proud of. Now, the first thing is, if you get communication from a professor that you're enrolled in a class before the class starts, absolutely respond to that email or that communication. Respond and say, thank you for that. I'm going to look at the syllabus. I'm looking forward to being in the class and meeting you on the first day. Sometimes you maybe want to tell a personal anecdote, like you're excited about this because you want to turn this class, this type of class, or what you're going to learn, into a career. That's fantastic. Do anything you can to endear yourself to the professor. That gets me to what happens when you get to class. When you show up in class on the first day, do not sit and hide back in the corners. Do you know that students that sit up front and in the middle of classes tend to make better grades than people who sit on the wings or all the way in the back? Why is that? Well, usually because students who struggle hide, and students who want to excel want to be up front. And it also communicates there's correlation or causation. There are debates about this, but the people who tend to outperform others in college or university life sit up front, in the middle. That's where you want to be. Now, in that class, whatever it is, the first thing after you sit in a seat, take the syllabus seriously. The first class or several classes are going to be going through the syllabus. Take the syllabus seriously. Go through, make notes on it, mark it up, circle things, and reverse engineer from that schedule on the last page of when things are due, reverse engineer your next 3 or 4 months of your life. And that is to coordinate it then with your other classes. And after you go through the syllabus, ask a question of the professor. Now, if there's the mood in the class or the opportunity of somebody else asks a question, then ask a question about a due date. Do you want the reading done before the class? Is it better to read it a couple days ahead of time? What do you recommend? Just ask for a recommendation. You're asking for their wisdom, their advice. Believe me, their ego is going to want to share it with you. So you do that, you ask a question. The next thing is, if you're really brave, you can say, hey, my name's James. I have a quick question about the syllabus. You say you want this on this due date. Should we get it done beforehand? How many days beforehand do you recommend? What's the best practice? and you throw in your name. Now, the next thing you do is the first time there's office hours, the very first, if it's a Monday class and there's office hours on Tuesday morning, show up for office hours. Even if you don't have a question, come with a question, carry the syllabus, look through it and say, can you give me a quick overview of how to prepare for this first assignment? Maybe it's due in 2 weeks, got to write something, research something. Just say, I want your advice on how to best prepare for this. What have you seen students succeed doing in the past? And you show up in the class, in the office hours, and you introduce yourself. The next thing you do in every single class up front, even if it's an arts or humanities class, you're supposed to sit there and think beautiful thoughts about roses or red, violets or blue. Take notes. I know you don't take notes unless you're in a highly structured STEM class, but get in the habit, especially you arts and humanities majors, you're in those fields, you're required to take those courses. Take notes. Type them in your computer, not your phone, not your cell phone. Put that damn thing down, turn it over, make sure the ringer's off, make sure the flashing light that you have an alert is shut off, and use your laptop or go old school. Notebook. Yeah, paper. Write things down. Just keep a record. Here's why. Most of your colleagues, most of your peers in higher education will not take notes, especially in humanities classes. Professors have egos, and when you write things down, they think they've said something that's worth writing down. When the professor knows you, and when they understand that you're engaged and you're following along and you're not scrolling through TikTok, doom scrolling while they're lecturing on the sonnets of Shakespeare, they're actually going to have a better opinion of you. A better opinion of you creates more generosity, gives you the opportunity of leveraging that generosity into a grade where if you're on a border between a C and a B or a B and an A, their generosity and the goodwill that you have created will benefit you. Now, am I saying that professors can be swayed and they're not objective in their grading? I'm saying that they're mostly objective in their grading and they set up their standards and they all have their idiosyncrasies or hobby horses. Don't know what a hobby horse is? Google it. And you're going to find out that professors that have those relationships with students, and that means staying after class, asking a question, engaging on a personal level, showing up for office hours, those are very important things to build this sort of habit. Now, the other thing I gave you the advice about taking the syllabus seriously. I've done a video on how to read a syllabus, and I suggest you check that video out. But the other thing is when you do the reading for the course that's outlined on the syllabus, you have to learn how to read or how to use the textbook. Now, textbooks are different than that sort of fantasy novel you read in high school and you tucked yourself away for a day and you just read from cover to cover for sheer enjoyment. You are not reading a textbook the same way. You're reading a textbook for a purpose. The book was assigned for a purpose. Find out what that purpose was. Ask the professor during office hours, hey, I've got the textbook. Can I ask, why'd you pick this textbook? And they will tell you they picked it because they like the person's take on this or it's very unique in that way. That'll give you a hint that no one else has about why it is you're using this textbook, not just reading it for enjoyment, but using it to come up with an outcome, a conclusion, to produce something. Every book that you are given, whether it's a workbook or a module, or whether it is a book that you're supposed to read from cover to cover, even if it's a work of fiction or poetry, has a purpose assigned to it, and the outcome is what you have to produce because of the book. Find out what that is. Talk to the professor. They'll share that information with you, and you'll know what it is you're supposed to be doing as you're reading. That is, it'll help you guide your reading and produce something tangible, because that is what education is. Now, let me give you one more hint, and that is, whatever it is, don't let your education interfere with your schooling. That is, or is it don't let your schooling interfere with your education? No, I think it's the first one. That is, you're going to have a lot of fun, you're going to party, you're going to keep all hours and nights, you're basically going to be unscheduled. Remember high school? Bell rang, you went from one class to another, you had time in the hall. Hey, hi Shirley, how are you doing? And you got bell rang, you sat down in your next class. College, university is not like that. You need to set your own schedule. Get up. That's something that most of us in college have to learn. And the sooner you learn to keep a disciplined schedule, to get up on time, to not blow off things and just stay up to 3 a.m. playing video games because you can. No, actually you can't if you want to succeed. You actually have to create a schedule. There are times when, yes, you get to blow off your schedule and stay up till 3 a.m., but it's not when you're trying to get your feet under you and get yourself situated so that you can succeed and get a reputation in higher education that you get to pick what you get to do with life rather than it being chosen for you because you're struggling to get C's in required courses that everybody else is getting A's and B's in. So finish the work, show up on time, take notes, take the syllabus seriously, go to office hours with the prof, interact with them as human beings, and one last thing. They are human beings. They do have egos. You've heard me describe that to you. Treat them with, don't just say, hey buddy. Treat them with a degree of respect. They're people who have Ph.D s. They're not called doctor anywhere else except in higher education. My joke with students is, excuse me, but what do I call you? I said, you can call me anything you want as long as it's Dr. Callahan. This is the only place in the world where I get to turn 24, 25, 26 years of education into a respectful title. Call me Dr. Callahan, damn it. Everywhere else you can call me James. My mother always called me Jimmy. You get the idea. You're looking for not a bestie and a mentor. And by the way, they're not going to be the recommendation that gets you a great job unless you're trying to get into grad school. If you're thinking about grad school after going to college or university, then the professor, they're going to be your besties. You need them to be your besties because they're going to write the recommendations that tell other people they can do rigorous work at the graduate level because they've done rigorous work for me at the undergrad level. Make sense? I hope so. So as you start your college or career, college or university education, I want you to turn it into something that actually works for you rather than just blowing off 4 years and wondering, should I switch my major? By the way, more and more 5 and 6 year degrees, majors are hitting the books, and colleges and universities love it because it means more money. All it does is slow down your progress and your opportunity to stop paying for things and start getting paid to do things. Take that to heart. Hey, and thanks for being part of the Do-Over Show. Please, could you tap the like button while you're down there, ring the notification bell, subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. I'm so glad you found me and I found you. Thanks.